Hello once again. Welcome to Zephyr's BI and Analytics, where we learn by building BI projects. This is actually a continuation video to our analyzing a technical support dataset using Power BI. In part 1 of the video, we covered the ticket volume and the ticket log. On this video, we are going to be covering the content and SLA and also the agent's performance. So if you've not seen part 1 of this video, where you get the opportunity to download the dataset and the background image used in this report, you can check on the channel. You'll find the part 1 of the video. So quickly, let's navigate back to our report and begin creating our content and SLA page. For that, I will quickly click on add a new page. Once I'm here, I'll come to format page, canvas settings. I'll change this to custom and I'll change the page height to 1080 and the width to 1920. Once this is done, I'll simply navigate to Canva background. I'll click on browse. I'll navigate to my pictures where I have the background. Remember, there is a link attached to the video description where you can actually download the background image used for this report. I'll select the background image. I'll click on open. I'll reduce the transparency and I'll also change the image fit from normal to fit. Great. Now I have my Canva ready to begin analyzing the content and SLA. Before we continue, quickly, I want to draw your attention. So I noticed that 80% of my viewers, that's 80.6% of my viewers are not actually subscribed to the channel. We only have 19.4% of the viewers that are currently subscribed to the channel. So if it's your first time on this channel or you're a returning viewer, please hit the subscribe button to always stay updated when new videos are uploaded. Quickly, let's navigate back to our report and begin creating our content and SLA page. So I'll quickly rename this page now. I'll rename this page to content and SLA. Content and SLA. So let's quickly navigate back to the report we want to recreate, our content and SLA page. I quickly want to walk you through the different measures and what I had to do here to arrive at this page, this report we have here. So the SLA is centered on first response and resolution. And if you navigate to table view, navigate to our data set, that's the technical support data set. For first response, remember, we have 3 sources. Our ticket is coming from 3 sources. We have the chat, email, and phone. Now, for our first response, we have a column here that said SLA for first response. This automatically tells us if the SLA for first response was within SLA or SLA was violated. Now, how was this column achieved? Remember, we have the time and the date the ticket was created. Now, there is an expected first response time. If you check your table very well, you will find expected first response time and expected first response date. Then you also have the first response time. Now, if you compare when the ticket was created, the date the ticket was created, compare it to the expected first response date, you will discover that it is the same date. Now, let's work with the first ticket. The first ticket, this is the expected first response date, 04/01/2023. 04/01/2023. Now, scroll down to when this ticket was created. Created date 04/01/2023. Now let's go to time. Now, the time this ticket was created was 6:08:24 p.m. Let's go now to the expected. Expected time is 7:08:24. So they expect you to respond. The first response to a ticket should be between 1 hour only. First response should be between 1 hour. So when the ticket was created 6:08:24 p.m., they expect you to respond to that ticket before 7:08:24. That's the expected first response time. Now, but what was the time that ticket was actually responded to? The ticket was responded to at 6:13:04. Remember, it was created 6:08. So, in as much as the response time, the first response time, did not exceed the expected first response time, that means it's within the SLE. It's within the SLE. But if the first response time exceeds the expected first response time, that means SLA has already been violated. That's how the column within or SLA violated for first response was actually achieved. So now, this is what I want to do to confirm what I'm saying now. This is SLA first response. I want to filter this to SLA violated. Filter to SLA violated. So you check it out. Now, for the first ticket that is going to appear here now, this is the date it was created, 22/10/2023. 22/10/2023. Now look at the created time, 2:15 a.m. 2:15 a.m. Remember, you are expected to respond to this ticket before 1 hour. So the expected response time to this ticket now will be eventually it's going to be, if you add 1 hour to this, it's going to be 3:32:15 a.m. Now we can confirm that expected first response, I was right, 3:32:15 a.m. So you are expected to respond to this ticket within 1 hour. But what was the time they actually responded to this ticket? Look at the time they responded to the ticket here. 5:27:03 a.m. It exceeded the expected time. You are expected to respond to this ticket before 3:32:15 a.m. But you responded to this ticket 5:27:03 a.m. Same thing, same principle for resolution. So that is how you would know this column was actually calculated when you know if SLA was achieved or SLA was violated. I didn't just want to just start creating the measure without explaining this to you guys. So I would clear the filters. Now, the first thing I did was calculate the percent in terms of first response. What percentage of tickets were within the SLA and what percentage of the tickets were SLA violated, using this column here that has already been calculated for us, which is SLA for first response. So with that, we were able to calculate the percentage of tickets for first response. Look at this. This is for first response, which is percentage of tickets for which SLA was achieved, then the percentage of tickets for which SLA was violated. Now, we have average residual time. The average residual time is actually the time between when the ticket was created and when the time at which the ticket was responded to. What I'm trying to say here, if you go to table view, average residual time is actually the time this ticket was created. This is the time the ticket was created. The difference between this time and the first response time, this is the first response time. What's the average? The difference, yes, even though you have some SLA was achieved while some SLA was violated, we're trying to see what's the difference and the average. So if you do that, you discover that the the average is actually 4 minutes. So whenever a ticket is created, although the expected residual first response time is 1 hour, but they respond to that ticket within 4 minutes. They do respond to that ticket on an average within 4 minutes. You can actually verify this. We can verify this. Now, this ticket was created. Let's go. Just stay with me carefully. The first ticket we have here now was created at what time? 6:08:24. 6:08:24 p.m. When was this ticket responded to? 6:08. When was the ticket responded to? Look at the time. 6:08. It was responded to 6:13. 6:13, which is about 5 minutes on an average. We're considering the entire ticket, so the residual time is 4 minutes. That's how the residual time was actually calculated. So we can go ahead and start creating our measure. I'll quickly come here now and copy. I'll just make a copy of this measure. So SLA achieved. I would copy this. This is first response. SLA achieved for first response. So we already have a measure that calculates the total ticket. We now create a measure to calculate total ticket where the technical support SLA for first response is within SLA. Eventually, we just calculate the percent. So I'm simply going to copy this measure. I'll make a copy. I'll just copy this. I'll navigate back to the report we're trying to create now. While we're here, I would expand our calculations. So I'll stay on calculations now and say new measure. Because that is done, I'll paste the measure I copied. Yes. So I'm having some errors. That's because what we named our total ticket here is different. So I'll simply just correct that. This is total tickets. Now I'm using total tickets, so I'll delete this. Yes. For this also, I'll make the same correction. The spelling, our total ticket is actually in capital letter T. So I'll say total tickets. Look for that. That's the last one here. Total ticket. Fine. So I'll say this is actually SLA achieved first response. I'm using F arrow for mine because I already know that SLA achieved first response. F arrow is first response. So once we've done this, I'll simply just commit this now. Using the same principle, we can actually then calculate SLA violated for first response. So I'll make a copy of this now. I'll copy this once more time. I'll copy this once more. I'll stay on calculations again and say new measure. I'll paste. Now I'm going to change a couple of things. First, this is SLA violated, not achieved anymore. SLA violated. Also, I'm going to change where technical support SLA for first response is equals to, I think is it violated or no SLA? I'll confirm this now. Is it violated? SLA violated. I think it's SLA violated. So SLA violated. So I'll filter this to SLA violated. Yes, SLA violated. So I'll commit this also. Great. So let's just bring our card visual and visualize what we've done now. So this is it. And we want this to represent our SLA achieved. So I'll go pick SLA achieved. Great. So this is 87, 0.87. So I'll click on the measure here, okay, here, and I'll format this to percent. Great. Great. So this is SLA achieved for first response. I'll just make a copy of this. I'll change the measure from SLA achieved to SLA violated. I'll format this to percent once more. I'll click on it and say format to percent. So this is SLA violated. So this is SLA achieved for first response. This is SLA violated for first response. Now, let's quickly navigate back to the report we're trying to recreate. So I have something underneath here, reference label, to show the number. This is actually displaying the number of tickets for which SLA was achieved compared to the total tickets. So 2019 out of the 2330, that's the number of tickets that tallies with this 86.65%. I did the same thing for SLA violated, display the number of tickets. Out of the 2330 ticket, 311 out of the 2330 ticket, SLA was violated for first response. So we're also going to do that. And to do that already, you already know, we already have the two measures created. But this time around, the only thing we need to do, we don't have to format them to percent anymore. We just have to display the value. So while we're here, I'll quickly navigate to, so this is SLA achieved. This is also for percent. So great. So this is SLA achieved first response 2. So this is the one that I will just make a copy of this now. I'll make a copy of this. It's the same principle we used before now, the same principle we used in calculating the percent. So I'll navigate back to our report now. So what I'm doing here, I'm simply saying I don't want the percent anymore. I just want the value to be returned. So I'll say new measure now. I'll paste the measure. Remember, I have SLA achieved already. So I'm saying SLA achieved first response. That's first response. I'm adding 2 to it to separate it from the percent. Now, I'm also going to change this from, the total tickets is quite different from the one we have here. So I'm going to change the total ticket too. And finally, I'll change it here also. So if you look at the two measure we're using now for the percent and for the value, is actually similar. It's the same thing. But in this case, what we're doing is simply return SLE. That's tickets within SLE out of total tickets. That's tickets within SLE out of total tickets. So tickets within SLE. Tickets within SLE out of total tickets. We have total tickets here. This is total tickets. So just return this value, tickets within SLE out of the total tickets. Just a simple measure. So I'm going to commit this. So before I commit that, I'll just make a copy of this. I'll make a copy of this. I'll commit this. So I'll stay on calculations once more and say new measure. I'll paste. Now this is going to be for SLA violated first response, SLA violated first response. Remember, this is first response 2. I added 2 because we already have SLA violated first response. So what do we need to change here? You can guess, so we need to change this from within SLA to no SLA violated. That's SLA violated. Great. So once we've done this, I'll commit this also. Now we can display both values in addition as a reference label to our first measure. That's the percent of tickets first response within SLE. So I'll select the card visual. I'll simply come to format visual. I'll say reference label. I'll scroll down. I'll say add. In my calculation, so what I want to add now is SLA achieved FRO2. That's SLA achieved first response 2. I'll click on it. Great. So once that is done, I'll simply scroll down. I actually don't want the title. I'll turn off the title. So you can actually see 2019 out of 2330 there. So some of the things I want to also do is scroll down. I don't want the divider. I also don't want the background should go also. So when I expand this, I don't want the divider, I don't want the background. We'll come back to actually format this the way we want it. But for now, let's quickly click on SLA, percentage of SLA violated. Then for this also, I'll simply navigate to reference label and say add. We're going to add the reference label now. Guess the reference label we're going to add is SLA violated first response to. Click on it. I'll do the same thing. I'll turn off the title. I'll scroll down. I also don't need the background and the divider. So great. So you have the two measures side by side. Great. Then finally, let's quickly navigate back to our report. Now, the average residual time, I already explained how this was achieved. The time the ticket was created compared to the time they actually responded to the ticket. So what's the difference between the time the ticket was created and the time they responded to the ticket? So I'm simply going to make a copy of this measure now. This is average SLA. I'm going to make a copy of this measure. So I actually have two of this measure. There's a reason I have two. If you notice also, we have 0 minutes from yesterday. 0 minutes from yesterday. So, like I said, I want a situation when you filter this report, you go back the previous day, you should see the changes from the SLA achieved to the average receiver time and all. So, I will simply we have three measures to achieve that. This is the first measure we need to create to achieve that. So this is the first measure we need to create. Like I said, now we're using the average X here. That's because we need to get the difference between the time the ticket was created and the time they actually responded to the ticket, first response time. So I'm going to make a copy of this measure. We need three measures to achieve that. So I'm going to make, this is the first measure. I'm going to make a copy of this. I'm going to navigate back to the report now. Now, while we're here, stay on calculations once more. Say new measure. I'll paste the measure. Remember, this is the first measure. I'll simply just change this to a capital A. So this is average SLA first response. This is actually the measure that calculates the average SLA first response. That's the average residual time. It's going to be 4 minutes or 4. So I'll commit this. I'll simply make a copy of this card visual here. I'll just say copy, I'll paste. But I don't want to display SLA achieved. I want to display what I just calculated now. This is the average. Now, I had to format this because I wanted to display this in just minutes. So I don't want the extra. I had to format it to 0. Decimal place is 0. So this is 4. Now, remember, underneath, as a reference label, we want to display the change compared to yesterday. So if you navigate back to the report, I have another measure here, which is, this is it. This is average SLA first response day on day change. Average SLA first response day on day change. So what do I need to do? I'm going to make a copy of this. Once I make a copy of this, make a copy of this and navigate back to the report. Now we want to calculate the day on day change because we want to display it underneath as a reference label. So I'll say new measure now. I'll simply paste this. So this is average SLA first response day on day change. Average SLA first response. So as usual, before now, we're using the dated R to go back one day. Remember, we're going to have an error. The reason we're going to have an error is because the measure we're referring to here, the average SLE we just calculated, is not in a small letter A, it's actually in a capital letter A. So I'm going to simply change that to capital letter A. Please make these changes. Make these changes to yours. Okay, great. So that's just where I need to change it. So we're going back for the average SLA first response. We're using the date add to go back one day. We've done this before several times on this video. Now we're simply calculating everything and we're coming to say, the reason I'm saying no change here is because if it's blank, I don't want to display blank. I've said this before. Rather, I want to display no change. So we're already adding, we're just concatenating this with minute from yesterday. That's the change from yesterday. So I'll simply commit this. I'll commit this. And finally, like I said, we needed 3 measures to achieve that. So I'm going to navigate back to report to bring the final measure. And that's this measure we have here. That's the average SLA first response 2. Is actually similar, same measure to the first one. But the reason is, once you decide to return your value with a string, you won't be able to use this value for any other calculation because it's a string. That's why I had to recreate another one. And because I wanted to concatenate it and return the value and the minutes. So I have to just make a copy of this now. I have to make a copy of this, which is the final one. Then navigate back to our report. Navigate back to our report, and I'm simply going to say calculations, new measure. I'll paste that. I'll simply just change this to average and I'll commit this. Great. Now this is the implication of what I'm trying to say. For the first one we created, which is what we have on our card here now, we actually want to add 4 minutes. So I'll uncheck it and pick the new one we just created. That's the average SLA FRO2, the one with 4 minutes. This one with 4 minutes, displaying 4 minutes here, we can actually use it for our day-on-day calculation. If we decide to reference this one, it's having a string. We're concatenating it already, so it's a string. So you can actually use it for the day-on-day calculation. That's why we have those 2 measures created separately. Now, on this, we can then display our day-on-day change. So we simply just come to Format Visual. That's our reference label now. We can then add the reference label. That's the average SLE first response DOD. And select that. Close this. We'll scroll down a bit. Turn off the title as usual. Scroll down. We don't need the divider and the background. So you can actually see 0 minutes from yesterday. So with this, we've actually calculated the first response SLA. Now we have the SLA achieved, the percentage of SLA achieved, and we're displaying the number of tickets. We have the SLA violated, we're displaying the number of tickets. Then we have the average residual time. So what we need to do is just simply format this. But everything we've done for this first response now, everything we've done for the first response, we need to do it for the resolution. Everything we've done for the first response, we need to do it for the resolution. But then, before we go there, let's quickly just format these card visuals we have here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'll simply rename this to SLA achieved. I'll stay on this and rename it here. I'll rename it on the feed value here to SLA achieved. I'll also rename this to SLA violated, so I'll just have to rename this to SLA violated. And finally, I'll rename this to average residual time. Just rename it here. Great. So once I'm done, next I'll select the first card visual, hold my control key, select the second and the third. Now I'll go to format visual, call add value. I'll change the style once more to the style we've been using, UI. I'll change the size to 30. Great. Once I'm done with that, I'll scroll down to labels. I'll increase the size of the label to 14. I'll change the color to black. Great. I'll scroll down, space between label, I'll decrease this to 0. Great. Next, I'm going to go to reference label. I'll change this to all. If it's on SLA achieve, please change it to all. Once it's there, I'll turn off the divider, the background. Also, I'll come to spacing. I'll decrease this to 0. I'll also decrease the padding to 0. So with this, I'm actually done formatting the card visual the way I want it. The only thing I need to do is add the different colors. So for the first one, I'm simply going to go grab the color code. So the color code is actually 4BC0B4. I'll simply grab the color code now. I'll grab the color code. So I'll select the first card visual. I'll go to format once more, call add value. I'll change the color to, that's 4BC0B4. For the second one, I'll grab the color code also. I'll copy this. That's FB6969. Navigate back to the report. I'll change the color code for this also. Great. I think one thing I did was actually to just select the 3 cards once more and make it bold. Great. So finally, I'll also select the 3 card. I'll select the 3 card visuals. Format, I'll go to cards. I'll scroll down. I'll turn off the background. I'll turn off the border. Don't think we need those. And I'll go to general once more. Effects, I'll turn off the background also. Great. So with this, what we need to do is just resize. Place this here. I'll resize this. Place it here. Resize this. Place it here. We can actually use same size for the 3 I mean. So what I'm going to simply do, I'll resize this. And I think I'll use this now. I'll use this. I'll simply come to format, general, properties. I'll say this should be 130 and this should be 205. It's fine. So I want to select the rest, 130, 205. This should be 130 and this should be 205. Great. So once I've done this, I'll simply just make sure they are well positioned. Check the alignment. Now, finally, I'll select this, hold down my control, select this, this. I'll come to format and I'll simply say align, distribute horizontally. So with this, we've been able to calculate the SLA achieved, violated, and average residual time for the first response. So to do that now, I'll just simply grab a text box and I want to make sure this is first response SLA. I'll simply just highlight this and increase the size to, let's say, 16 and make it bold. Let's say 14. Once I'm done, I'll select, I'll come to effects, I'll turn off the background, use this and simply bring it and drop it here. Is it first response or SLA first response? What did I actually use? First response, okay. So we can actually just say first response or first response SLA. So everything we've done for the first response, we need to do same for the resolution. So first I'm going to make a copy of this now. I'll simply just make a copy of this, paste it, and I'll change this to this should be resolution. That's resolution. Great. So we're also going to calculate the SLA achieved for resolution, SLA violated for resolution, and average residual time for resolution. So if you come to our table view and we navigate to our data set, you actually find that we have resolution, that's SLA, yeah, SLA for resolution, where you have SLA violated and SLA achieved within SLA. So we're going to do the same thing. Everything we've done for first response, we're going to do it for resolution. So to do that, I'm simply going to be copying the measures and just making little changes. So I'll go to the measure we use in calculating this is our SLA achieved first response. This is SLA achieved first response. So I'll simply just copy this measure. I'll copy this measure now. I'll stay on calculations once more. I'll say new measure. I'll paste this. Now this is going to be, I'll just remove the F and say it should be arrow, which is SLA achieved for resolution. Every other thing remains the same, but this automatically is no longer technical support SLA first response, rather is SLA resolution. So this is SLA for resolution. Technical support SLA for resolution. This is within SLA. Every other thing remains the same. I'll simply make a copy of this so I can calculate for violated SLA. I'll make a copy of this now. I'll stay here a while so you see clearly. I'll commit this. On calculations once more, new measure now. I'll simply paste this. This is SLA violated for arrow, that's SLA violated resolution. So this is going to be SLA violated, not within SLA anymore. SLA violated. Once this is done, I'm going to commit this once more. Great. I'll simply make a copy of this card visual. Any of these card visual, I'll make a copy of them. I'll paste. I'll bring this here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select my SLA achieved arrow. I'll drop it here. Now I'm going to uncheck the SLA violated. So this is it. This is SLA achieved. So I'm going to format this to percent. So you actually have 6639%. The reason I'm doing this is because I don't have to go through the formatting process we went through for the first response. So To do this now, I'm just going to come here, format, call out value. All I need to do is change the color to green, and that's all. Finally, I'll go to the title here and say SLA achieved. Great. So once this is done, this is for the resolution SLA, that's the SLA achieved. Next, I'll simply make one more copy. I'll bring this here. So this is actually SLA violated. Now, this is for first response. I won't uncheck it here. Rather, I will go and click on SLA violated for arrow, SLA violated resolution. I'll click on it. Now I can uncheck the SLA violated for first response. So it will retain the same format. Next, I'll simply click on it and format this to percent once more. Great. So finally, what I'll do is just rename this to SLA violated. SLA violated. Great. Okay, so we need to also calculate the change. That's the number of tickets, not change now. Number of ticket out of the total ticket. So for us to do that, let's quickly grab one of the measures we have here already. That's going to be SLA first response to. Is this the measure we need? Yes, this is the measure we need. So this is SLA violated first response to. You can copy, you can just take any one. So what we need to do here is just to copy this measure now. Come to new measure once more. I'll simply paste the measure I copied. So what do I need to do? I just need to remove this F here. I'll say it's R2. I'll also come here. This is no longer first SLA for first response. Rather, it's SLA for resolution. I'll change this SLA for resolution. So this is actually violated. SLA violated R2 resolution. So we also need one for the achieved. What do? We can actually just make a copy of this now. So we'll commit this. Once that is done, I'll click on new measure once more. I'll paste the measure I copied. So this is actually SLA achieved now for resolution 2. This is achieved. So we're going to change this from SLA violated. Rather, it should be within SLA. So that is it. I'm going to commit this. So what do we need to do is come to this achieved card visual we have here, this SLA achieved card visual, then format, reference label, change this to SLA achieved, click on add data. Remember, we're talking about resolution. I'll carefully scroll down. So this is SLA achieved arrow 2. Yes, SLA achieved arrow 2. That's what we're looking for. I'll select this. The next thing I'm going to do is scroll down. I'll turn off the title, and that is all. Turn off the title, that is all. So I'll select the violated. I'll come to format once more. Next, I'll go to reference label, add data. Remember, what we're looking for now is SLA violated arrow 2. This is SLA violated arrow 2. I'll just select this. All I need to do is scroll down, turn off the title, and that is it. So finally, we need to do same for the average residual time for the resolution. Remember, this average residual time for first response is actually the difference between the created time and the time the first response was actually given to the ticket. Now, what about the resolution? The resolution is actually the difference between the first response time and the resolution time. We're not going back to the time the ticket was created anymore. Rather, we're saying, okay, from the time the first response was given to the resolution time. So to do that, let's quickly navigate to our reports. This is average residual time for resolution. So remember, we needed three measures to achieve that. So I'm simply going to copy this measure now. I'll make a copy of this measure. We actually have this already. I don't know why I came back here. So I'll navigate back to our report we're trying to create. I would say calculations, new measure. I'll paste the measure I copied. Now we actually had this before now. So this is average SLA arrow. I'll just say R because the reason remember what I said before now, we're concatenating this with a string, but we can actually use this to do our calculations for the day on day change. So I'll simply format this a bit. What I want to do is simply just remove the format. What I want to return is just return the average. Return the average in this case. We're not formatting the average, just return the average. Return the average. So I'm going to commit this. So we'll be able to use this for our day on day change. So we can now calculate the one we need to concatenate to display the average residual time for resolution. So it's the same measure I brought before. Now I'll just paste it. I'll paste it. Then what I'm going to do now, I don't need to format this anymore. Rather, I'll just rename this to, that's arrow 2 now. So with this, I think we're okay. We don't need to do any other thing. Remember, I said is the technical support, that's the first response time, the difference between first response and resolution time. So I'll commit this. Then finally, we need to calculate the day on day change for the resolution. So to do that, I'm simply going to copy the measure we have here before, the day on day change for the average ticket, that's average SLA for first response day on day. This is the one I want to copy. So I'll simply copy this. I'll make a copy of this now. Okay, I've done that already. We're going to change a couple of things though. So I'll say new measure finally. I'll paste the measure. Remember, this is talking about resolution, not first response. So this is previous. So this is the measure I'm going to change here. Average SLA. This is for resolution, not for first response. Look at it. Average SLA for resolution. Remember, we have the one with a string and we have the one without a string. So we're using the one without a string. That's the one we didn't concatenate. So with this, we're good to go. I'm simply going to commit this. Great. Once this is done, I'll come to this card visual. I'll make a copy. Ctrl C, Ctrl V. I'll bring it here. I won't uncheck it. Rather, I will go click on what I need. What do I need right now? That's the average SLA F arrow. That's arrow 2. Average SLA arrow 2. This is it. Average SLA arrow 2. I'll click on it. Now I can finally uncheck it. 16 minutes. Great. This will enable me retain the format for this card visual already. So I'll simply rename this to average residual time Great. What else do I need to do? Come to format, come to reference label, add, then I need to add the average SLA arrow DOD. Arrow DOD, not F arrow. F arrow is first response. So average SLA arrow DOD. So once that is done, I'll simply scroll down and say turn off the title. That should be it. That is done. So what do we need to do is select the first card visual here, select the second, select the last, say format, align, distribute horizontally, distribute horizontally. Great. So I'll simply just move this. Great. Next, I'll simply save this to make sure I don't lose any information. So with this, we've been able to create the card visuals for the content and SLA page. Next, we need to create the SLA target. Then also we visualize the SLA by the ticket status and ticket source. So let's navigate back to our report now. We are going to start by creating the matrix table for SLA status by order of ticket priority. So to do that, I'm simply going to come to select my matrix table. I'll bring it down here. I'll just increase the size a bit. Now the first thing I need is to go to ticket priority. I'll select the priority. Next, this is for first response. So I'll go to SLA for first response. That will come to columns, while the priority will go to rows. Now, we created, in our calculations, we created 3 calculations for tickets. We have the total tickets, we have the total ticket percent, and the total ticket string. In this case, we need the total ticket string, so I'm going to select that total ticket string. Great. Once we've done that, you can actually see the SLA status by order of ticket priority, and you can see how it was actually distributed across the ticket priority. So a few changes we are going to make to this matrix visual is just a few formatting options. Come to format your visual. The layout, we are going to change the layout from default to none. Come to grid, scroll down a bit, come to options, increase the padding, let's say 5. Then the font size, increase the font size to 14. Finally, we need to turn off the column subtotal. Once we've done this, one more thing we need to do is come to general, say turn on the title, and give the matrix visual a title SLA status by order of ticket priority. I'll simply change the font style. And that will be it. We also need to create another matrix visual for that will be ticket source. That's SLA status by ticket source. So to do that, I'm simply going to make a copy of this matrix visual we've created. Copy, I'll paste this. I'll just bring it here. The next thing I'm going to do, I'll come to my visual and I'll uncheck priority, replace priority with source. So in my technical support, I'll scroll down, I'll replace priority with source. Great. So with this, we've created the 2 matrix visual we need for first response SLA. So I'll simply come here and make a copy of this. I'll make a copy of this title we have here. I'll bring it here. While it's here, I'll simply say, okay, first response SLA. It's okay. Now, if we navigate back to the report we have here, you can actually see target SLA first response within minutes, average SLA. How did I arrive at this target SLA? If we navigate back, now go to table view. In our table view, we have the created date for the ticket. For first response, we already know that the created date and the expected date is same. For first response, the same date the ticket was created, they want you to respond to the ticket that same day. But the created time, if you check before now, you can actually notice that when a ticket was created by 6:08 p.m., the expected SLA for first response was 7:08. Ideally, you would, when you look carefully, you see that it's always an hour interval. So you would be tempted to assume that, okay, so when a ticket is created, you are expected, the expected SLA for first response should be an hour. But that's not true. It's not same for all the tickets. If you check carefully, you'll find out that there are tickets that were created and within a very short time, they expected you to respond to those tickets within a very short time. So look at this ticket. This ticket was created 10:27 p.m. That's 10:27 a.m. If you trace down to the expected SLA, okay, this is also 11:27, which is 1 hour. So you have to check carefully. I was tempted to assume it was 1 hour for all the tickets, but after checking carefully, I discovered it was not 1 hour. Now look at this ticket. This ticket was created 7:45 p.m. If you check to the expected SLA for first response, 7:47. So they were expected to respond to this ticket within 2 minutes. That's the SLA for first response. So to get the target now, the difference between the date the ticket was created and the expected first response, which is the time the ticket was created in this time around, not date, the time the ticket was created and the expected SLA for first response time. The difference will give you the target. Now we're taking an average to give us an average of okay, so what's the expected response time, the target time, the average. So to do that, I'll simply just say new column now. We want to create a new column in this data, and we want to say this column should be target first response SLA. This will be equal to, remember, I'm going to call on the date dated diff function now. What do I want? The first date in this case, we're talking about created time, not date actually. So what I want is, I want the technical support created time. That's the created time. Note created time. Even though I'm using the dated diff function, I'm referring to the created time because I want the difference between the created time and the expected SLA for first response time. So that's my first one. I also want the difference. That's the technical support now. SLA for first response. That's SLA for expected SLA for first response. I'm going to select that. Now, what do I want? I want the difference in minutes. In minutes. I want the difference in minutes. So it's a very straightforward calculated column. The dated diff function, technical support, the created time, the difference between the created time and the expected SLA for first response time. Now, I saw date here, which is not supposed to be. It's time we're referring to. Please ensure you're using time. Great. So once I've done this, I'll simply commit this. If you check carefully, now I have a column here, target first response SLA. You can actually see 60-60, which is actually 1 hour. For a lot of the ticket, it was 1 hour. You would think it was 1 hour. Well, let's check the drop down here. So you can actually see 1 hour, some are actually negative value. We're having negative values here also. 60, 62, 2 minutes, negative values and all. So I'll click on OK. So how do we get the target? To get the target, we are simply going to take an average of that new column we just created now. So we'll stay on our calculations. We stay on our calculations and simply come to new measure. I'll simply call this measure average target first response. This will be the average of the technical support table technical support table, we are looking for that's the target first response SLA. So once we've done this, I'll commit this. Great. The next thing I can simply do is bring a card visual now. I'll simply pick on one of the card visuals we have here and drop that measure we created now. So you can actually see the target I'm having here is 3.67. I wanted to approximate this to round this up, so decimal place of 0. So you actually see the average target is 4 minutes. So first thing we're going to do is give this card visual a title. This will be SLA targets for first response in brackets in minutes, because we want to be specify that this should be in minutes. I'll change the style. Go to the visual, also change the style here. I would then I think the font size is okay. Then finally I would come here and say this is average SLA. One thing I'll do is go to format, general, the title. I'm going to centralize the title. Great. So I'll simply just bring this, reduce the size, come to general once more, general effects, turn off the background. I'll simply bring this and drop it here. So with this, we've actually taken care of what I had here: first response, target SLA for first response, average SLA. The next thing I actually had here is just a simple text explaining what we have on the matrix table. Let me expand so you can actually zoom in so you can see the text. Let me zoom in a little more. So this is just a simple text to say with 13.35% of SLAs being violated, this indicates that the target SLA was exceeded. Of these violations, 7.25% were tied to tickets with low priority. Additionally, when categorized by source, 5.85% of 13.35% violated are associated with chat tickets. So this is just a simple text to further add a little explanation to what we have up here. So I'm just going to make a copy of this text box now. So I can take it over to the report we have here. I'll simply paste that here. Great. So with that, we've been able to cover this. So next, everything we've done here now, we need to replicate it for resolution. So to make it easy and pretty straight, I'm just going to make a copy of this first matrix visual now. I'll copy this, paste. I'll simply bring it down here. Now, what I need to do is change SLA for first response and replace it with SLA for resolution. SLA for first response, I'll replace it with SLA for resolution. This is SLA for resolution. I'll just click, drag, and drop here. Great, so that is taken care of. Next, I'll come pick this. I'll make a copy once more. I'll paste it. I'll bring it down here. Remember, also, what I want to do is uncheck SLA for first response and replace it with SLA for resolution. Pretty straightforward, while retaining same title for the two visuals. Great. Once that is done, now let's go back and see. Okay, before we continue, I'm simply going to copy this text box we had here earlier. I'll make a copy and I'll bring it down here. Next, we need to now calculate the target for resolution. Now, how did I arrive at that target for resolution? So let's go to our table view once more. Now, remember, first response has been taken care of. Now, for resolution, we're not going to go back to the date the ticket was created or the time the ticket was created anymore. Rather, we'll be working with the first response date and the first response time. So this is the first response date. I'm just going to format these to DD, month, and year. So we're going to be looking at the first response date. For this ticket, look at the date, the first response date, 04/01/2023. But what is the expected resolution date? Expected resolution date. That's what we should be looking at for now. So we have the first response date. What is the expected resolution date? I'll change it here. Look at the expected SLA to resolve date. I'll quickly change the formats so we'll be in sync. Okay, great. Now, for the first response, look at the first response date. Look at the expected SLA to resolve date. 2 days interval. 2 days interval. So, how do we get the target? We're not working with time here anymore because the first response already taking care of the time. Now, the ticket has been responded to first response. Now, for resolution, they expect that ticket to be resolved within 2 days. Now, the difference between the first response date and the expected SLA to resolve date will give us the target number of days. The average of that, we take the average of the difference between the first response date and the expected SLA to resolve date. We can actually just create a new column here now and say target. We'll simply say target resolution, which is target arrow. We're also using the same function we used earlier, dated div. This time around, we're working with, remember, we're working with first response date, first response date, first response date, and expected SLA to resolve date. Now, what do we want? We want the difference in days. So I'll simply close this and hit the enter button. So we have 2 days, 2 days, 2 days. You can see we have the days here, 2 days, 1 day, 2 days, different days. So finally, we can then take the average of that. We can take the average of that. So we simply need to just come up here in our calculations. We create a new measure. We simply call this measure average target arrow. This will be average of our target arrow. So I think one thing I did was I did not represent that in days, rather I did represent it in hours. Okay, great. I did represent that in hours. So for us to do that is simply, it's simple, we're on the right track. Simply go back to table view. On table view, for our technical support, the new column we just created, which is target arrow, instead of saying day, simply just change this to hour. Instead of saying days, simply just change this to hour. So it will give us the difference between the two dates in hours rather than day. Yeah, 2 days. It will give us the difference between the two dates in hours. So once we're done with that, navigate back to our report view. Yeah, instead of 24 hours, for 2 days, we now have 48 hours. That's fine. So navigate back to our report view. We already calculated the average. So I'll simply make a copy of this card visual we have here. I'll make a copy of this card visual. I'll replace the average SLA now. That's the average SLA we calculated for first response. I'll replace that with I'll replace that with average target arrow resolution. That's 39. So this is actually days. This is actually 39 days, which is approximately 2 days or so. So automatically this is our target. I'll simply go back to general title and say SLA target for resolution. This is target for resolution, not first response. Target for resolution. This is target for resolution. In bracket hours. Great. Once we've done that, I'll come back here and say this is average SLA. Great. Great. Next, I have a text here. It's same thing I did earlier. It's just a simple text adding context to what we already had up here. So I'll zoom in so you see the text clearly. Great. So it's just a text within with 33.61% of SLA being violated. This indicates that the target SLA was exceeded, and of all the violations, 7.34% were tied to tickets with low priority. Additionally, when categorized by SOX, 16.57% of the 33.61% violations are associated with email tickets. So for first response, it was associated with chat tickets, while for resolution, it was associated with email tickets. So I'm simply going to make a copy of this text box. Navigate back to our report here. I'll paste that here. So with this, we're done. We're done with our SLA for first response and for resolution. I'm simply going to save this. Next, we proceed to visualize the matrix table we have for the country here. I'll zoom out so we see that clearly. So next, let's proceed to creating the matrix table for the global ticket creation statistics by country and by topic. So I'll quickly navigate back to the report now. So this is the matrix table. We have the country. Of course, this is just the flag, so you can easily identify the country. Then the different ticket topic. Then the number of tickets that were created. So we will create that now. The first thing we need to do here is simply select our matrix table once more. I'll bring the matrix table down here. I'll expand a bit. Next, we need to select the country. So I'll scroll down here. I'll select the country. You can actually take the country from either the technical support or from the country table. Once we're done selecting the country, I'll go to the country now table and select the flag. Now the flag is actually on the columns. I'll click on it and drag it to rows. Great. Then finally, we need to select, we need to go to technical support once more and select the ticket topic. The ticket topic should go to the columns. Yes, ticket topic should go to the columns, that's right. And finally, go to our calculations and select the total ticket measure. Total ticket measure. Total ticket measure. Yes, that's it. So one thing you notice, if you expand, you actually notice that we have the flag when you expand the table. So first we right click and say expand to next level. Great. So once this is done, the next thing we need to do is come to format, come to layout, change the layout from compact to tabular. Great. So you have the flag on its own column. I think one thing we need to do is right click and say, should I say collapse entire level? Let's see, entire level. Okay, so right click now and say expand entire level. Great, that's fine. On selection for the row total, we don't need the row total. We're going to turn it off. We're going to turn it off. Next, we'll come to layout once more. From default, change it to none. That's good. So this button, will I call them button now? So this plus or minus symbol we have here that you can easily use to expand and collapse the table. We need to remove that. So scroll down, come to, is it column grand total now? Okay, not column grand total, it should be somewhere here. Okay, column subtotal, I hope so. Not here. Okay. Okay, row headers, scroll down, row headers. So on the row headers, you see the plus or minus icon, you just turn it off. Great. Next, we go to the image size. We'll go to the image size. Look, this is the image size. Scroll down, change the size. I think I'll make it, let's say 20. Okay, 20 is too small. Let's say 30. Image size should be 30. Okay. So one thing I'm going to do for the column headers, I'll simply click and adjust so we can have them. We'll break the column headers. This should be feature request. This should be pricing and other licensing. This should be product setup. This should be purchasing and invoicing. Okay. This should be training request, and this is the total. So we also need to increase the font size of our table. So I'll simply come to layout, no layout now, grid. I'll scroll down, options, the padding, let's say we want the padding to be 3 for now. Increase the font size to, let's say 12 and see what happens with 12. Okay, make it 14. Let's increase the padding once more. Padding to 5. Okay, the padding should be 5. While the global font size should be 14. We need to resize these. This is reports. This is feature request. This is pricing. This is products. This is training requests. Okay. Just fit it into the Canva we have here. Make sure it's in order. Okay, that's great. So we have our matrix table created already. I think we need to come back to size, and we probably need to reduce the size to, let's say we reduce the padding to 4, reduce the size to, let's say 12. 12 should be fine. the padding to 4, the size should be 12. One thing we can also do here is simply come to format and say specific column and turn on everything and simply say align middle. Yes. Great. So since we've done this, the next thing, obvious thing we need to do is apply our conditional formatting. If we navigate back to the report I have here, so to achieve this, we actually used the cell element. Cell element, we're using the total tickets, and we're saying for the background, format the background. So we have a total ticket, that's the ticket gradient 2. I have a ticket gradient 2. Remember, for tickets and their time the tickets were created, we had the ticket gradient also. So I'm going to copy this measure I created now. That's ticket gradient 2, ticket gradient 2, ticket gradients. Great. So like before, just like we did with the first table we created, where we created the ticket gradient measure. So this is just another ticket gradient measure to apply the gradient field we have on our matrix table. So I'm simply going to copy this now. I'll navigate back to our report. While we're here, I'll stay on calculations and I'll say new measure. I'll simply paste the code I copied. Now I'm getting this error. That's because my total ticket is spelled differently here. What I have here is capital letter T and capital letter for total, and capital letter T for ticket. So I'll simply change those. So the way I arrived at these numbers I have here, less than 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, if you actually look at the chart we have here, the matrix table we have here, I already have an idea of the numbers I'm looking at for the numbers I have here, how the numbers are distributed, and I know we have 70, we have 80, so obviously that's how I got the numbers. Less than 10 should be a particular color, less than 20, less than 30, less than 40, and less than 50. Then every other one, 50 and above, should take another color. So once I've done this, I'll simply check. I'll simply check and say commit. So what we need to do next is simply select the matrix visual, come to format, general, turn off the background. That's one thing we need to do. Now to format visual, scroll down, cell element, scroll down, turn on the background. For the background, click on the conditional formatting we have here. Say we don't want to format by gradients, rather we want to format by field value. Then we supply the value for the measure we just created. That's total. That's ticket gradient 2. Ticket gradient 2, because we have gradient 1 already. Ticket gradient already. So ticket gradient 2. And once we're done with that, I'll click on OK. So this will apply the gradient to the matrix table. Also, we need to turn on the bars. Once you turn on the bars, you come to conditional formatting once more and say we want the bars to show for the total only, and we want to only display the bar. Now we need to enter the value for the total. So for the total, we know we have between the lowest value we have there is actually 133, and the highest value we have is actually 306. So 1333, okay, 131306. 131306. So I'll simply say 100 to 400 and click on OK. Great. Once I've done this, I'll simply just save. Next, I'll simply select the matrix visual. I'll expand this. I'll expand so the bars can actually show. Once I'm done with that, I can actually sort this now and say by total ticket. Great. The next thing we quickly need to do is to make sure the color we have here is actually same with one of the colors we have here. So to do that, we just need to change the go to our conditional formatting and change the bars color. One thing we can do is simply navigate back to our report so we can actually get that color code. I'll select donut chart. I'll say slice and I'll just grab this color code now. Great. I'll grab the color code. We can then go back to our content and SLA. Content and SLA. So I'll select the matrix visual once more. I'll come to format, back to cell elements. I'll scroll down, data bars. I'll change this positive value color. I'll paste the color code I just copied. For negative, I don't need to do any other thing there. I'll just simply click on OK. So we have the color code in order also. And finally, what we need to do is simply give this chart a title by coming to Format, General, turn on the title. This should be Global Ticket Creation Statistics by country and topic. Global ticket creation statistics by country and topic. I'll change the style, the size, font size is actually okay. I'll just centralize this. Great. One thing we can also do is select the matrix table, come to format, grid. Maybe you can try turning on the horizontal grid, and that should be also fine. So with this, we are actually done with our contents and SLA page. Our content and SLA page. With this, we are done with our content and SLA page. Next, we'll proceed to the final page. The final page is actually agent performance. Agent performance. The final page is actually agent performance. I'll hold for these charts to display. These are actually zoom charts, so they take a little time to probably display. So the next, we're going to proceed to creating our agent performance. So navigate back to our report now. I'll simply add a new page. I'll come to format page, Canvas setting. I'll change this to custom 1080 1920. Next, I would simply come to Canva background, browse. Remember, the link to download all these is attached to the video. I'll scroll down and look for my Canva background, and here it is, ticket 4. Finally, I'll reduce the transparency. I'll change this from normal to fit. Great. With this, I have agent performance Canva. So I'll rename the page to agents performance. Great. Next, we begin creating the different charts for the agent performance. So one of the charts we need to create for our agent performance page is the metric table. And for us to do that, we also need to create some few measures. Let's quickly navigate back to our report here. I'll go to the agent performance. So we need to create these metric tables. The first metric table is actually the performance by the agent. So we have what we call average SLA in minutes here. This is actually the time taken, that's the overall average resolution time. That's the time taken, the difference between from when the ticket was created to actually when it was resolved. From when the ticket was created to when it was resolved. So we quickly need to create that measure. And to do that, we need to, I'll quickly just copy the measure here now. It's a simple measure using the average X function. I'll copy this. I'll navigate back to our report now. I'll stay on calculations once more and say new measure. I'll paste the measure I copied. Remember I said it's actually the average SLA overall resolution. So it's simply what we've been doing before now, using the dated diff function. We're saying we want to know the difference between the time created and the resolution time. That's what we're doing here. So before now, normally we do create a calculated column using the dated diff, then we'll go ahead to create the to calculate the average, but we're not doing that here. Rather, we're just using the average check function. We're doing our dated diff here already, then we're also taking the average. So with this done, I would commit this. So next, I'll quickly just come to creating the visual here. I'll select the matrix table. I'll bring that here. I'll expand. Now I'll navigate to technical support. What we need is the agent name. I'll select the agent name. Great. The other thing we need is the total number of tickets. So I'll go to calculations and search for total tickets. Great. So these are the tickets by the agent, the tickets by the agents. Let's quickly navigate back to our report so I can take a look. So we have the total ticket by the agent here, total ticket by the agent. This is actually also total ticket by the agent. So it's just same measure. So it will allow us use the conditional formatting here by adding data bars. Also, we have, that's the average SLA in minutes, what we just calculated. So let's quickly go back now. So we also need another total ticket measure. So I would click on this total ticket measure. I'll click on this total ticket measure. I'll make another copy. I'll say total ticket 2 measure. There's a reason I'm actually doing this. I'll stay on calculations once more. I'll say new measure. I'll paste and just rename these to total tickets 2 and click on commit. So I'll select the matrix table once more. I'll bring that same measure I just created now. That's total ticket 2. Great. It's the same measure, but we are going to be formatting the total ticket 2 just to display the bars only. The next thing I'm going to do is bring the average overall SLA we just calculated. This is it here, average overall SLA we just calculated. This is it. Then we also need to bring some few measures in. Let's go back to the report once more. Okay, so the number of tickets, first response within SLA, first response violated. Then we have resolution, number of tickets within resolution, SLA resolution, violated SLA also. So these are the measures we'll be using. And if you notice, I actually wrote these measures again. There's a reason I had to do them again. That's because I wanted to apply conditional formatting to each of the column. I wanted to apply conditional formatting to each of the column. Now, I'm just going to grab one of these my measures here. I'm going to take it down there. Then we are going to continue to edit this measure to give us the violated for first response and within SLA for first response. We'll also do that for resolution. So I'll quickly just copy this now and navigate back to our report. So I'll stay on calculations once more. I'll say new measure. I'll simply just paste the measure I copied now. This is violated SLA first response. So remember, this total ticket here is showing an error because our total ticket is spelled differently. So our total ticket is spelled differently. I'll use this total ticket now. With this, we're good to go. I'll just make a copy of this. Because this is actually for SLA violated. So I'll make a copy of this. So we need to create another measure for within SLA. So I'll make a copy of this and paste this. This is no longer violated. I'll just say within SLA, then this will change to SLA as within SLA. Great. I'll commit this. Now, we've been working with SLA for first response. So we need to also do for resolution. So next, I'm going to say new measure once more. I'll paste the same code, violated SLA. I'll change this to arrow. That's for resolution. Then I'll come here and change this to SLA for resolution. I'll commit this. I'll make a copy of this before I commit it. I'll make a copy and commit this. Finally, I'll say one more measure. We need to create new measure. I'll simply paste what I copied now. This is no longer violated. This is within SLA. But it's for arrow also, within SLA for arrow. Then all we need to do is change this violated to within SLA. Great. So I've done this for first response and resolution. So we need to add them to our metrics visual. So I'll select the metrics visual. I'll expand my data pane so I can see the name of the measures clearly. So I'll scroll down. So I need for first response, that's F arrow. So within SLA, number of tickets. Great. Violated SLA, first response, number of tickets. Then we have within SLA resolution and violated SLA resolution. So great. So we have the entire matrix table figured out already. We have all the columns we need. Let's quickly then go ahead to format our matrix table. So this is actually total tickets. I'll remove edit. This, I'll just rename this to, I'll use double T, total tickets, that's fine. This is average resolution, SLA resolution. I'll simply say this is average SLA resolution. Then this is within SLA for first response. This is violated SLA for first response. Sorry, I don't need this. Great, thank you. So I'll scroll down. I'm just renaming. This is within SLA for resolution, violated SLA for resolution. Why is this thing coming up? Sorry about that. So one thing I want to do is add the symbol to indicate that it's number. At the symbol, great. So I have that figured out already. The next thing we need to do is format this matrix table to look exactly like what we have here. So to do that now, let's quickly go back, and first thing we need to do is come to format, layout style. We don't want any style, none. We want none. This should remain on compact. Let's say tabular. What happens? Tabular or compact is fine, whichever. Then come to grid, scroll down, come to options. The padding, let's say the padding should be, let's take 4, 5, 6, let's say 5. Increase the font size to let's say 14. One thing we can do is start adjusting. So we would adjust to make sure it fits in. So we need to go back and rename these actually. So this should be first response, that's F arrow, first response within SLA. Rename to first response within SLA. This should be F arrow violated SLA. Great. So this should be arrow within SLA. I'll just replace it here. And finally, this should be arrow violated SLA. Great. So we can actually bring it down this way. Yes, this is what I was trying to achieve. Okay. Then finally, we can bring this down. Great. Great. The next thing we need to do is add our conditional formatting. So I'll come to format once more. Format. I'll come to specific column to start with. I'll scroll down. When I'm on total ticket, I'll turn on header, apply to total, and I'll say align center. Great. I'm going to do that for the average SLA arrow. Align, I'll apply to the header and the total value, align center. I want to do that for all the columns I have there. Apply both to the header, everything should be aligned center. I'll change, apply to the header and everything, align center, change, apply to header, apply to total, align center, change this to the final one, apply to header, apply to the total, align center. Great. Once I'm done with my specific column formatting, next we go to cell element. On cell element, I will expand. Okay, so I want to work with the total ticket, that's TT. Now I want to apply data bars. I want to come to conditional formatting, and I want to say, you know what? I only want you to give me the bars only. I don't want the values. Give me the bars only. I don't want the values. And click on OK. So we have the bars only. Now I'll quickly go back to cell elements. Specific column. I'll refer to the TT column. I'll turn everything off and say apply to header only, and I'll change the text color to white. So the header, you won't see the TT header here. Great. So every other one, we need to apply conditional formatting. I'll quickly navigate back to our report now, and I need to grab the color code we use for the conditional formatting here. So here I'll simply say come to that's cell element. Now I'm always missing specific column with cell element. So I'll navigate to average SLA minutes. I'll come to my background color. Now this is what I used. The first color is white, and the highest color is actually this color code we have here. So I'll simply just copy this. Say cancel. So let's navigate back to our report now. So the first thing we need to do, like we've done before, come to cell elements, change the series now to average SLA arrow. We want to apply background color, conditional formatting. Now the lowest value should be white, the highest value, paste the color code I just copied now. This is the color code. Once that is done, I'll click OK. I'll do same for the next one. So I'll simply scroll up, change this to F arrow within SLA, turn on the background, conditional formatting once more. Highest value, that's lowest value should be white. Highest value should be the color code I just copied also, and paste it. Great. Now one thing we can also do is we don't want a situation where violated SLA would actually be use the same color code we've been using. Violated SLA is something that it's actually bad, so we want to use another color code to actually differentiate that. So what we need to do is simply go back here. Let me grab the color code. I want to be sure we're using the same color code. Violated SLA. Great, so I'll simply copy this color code now. This is the color code here. This is the color code. I'll copy this. I'll click OK. Go back to our report. So for violated SLA, that's the first response, violated SLA. I'll turn on the background also. Conditional formatting now. Highest value now should be that red color. The lowest value should be white. So we have this gradient fill. I'll click on OK. So you have this. So we need to do same for within, so violated resolution. So the violated, they take the same color code. Conditional formatting, this should be white. Since it's violated, the color code should be red. I'll click on OK. Great. So for this, we're going to use the same color code we've been using here. So I need to grab that color code. I didn't save it, so I'll just simply grab it here. I'll grab it here. Come back here and say for within SLA, I'll turn on the background color, conditional formatting once more. The highest value should be this color. The lowest value should be white. And click on OK. Great. Finally, these bars we have here, we need to give it the blue color code also. So TT, conditional formatting, the positive bar, more colors. I'll paste this color code and click OK. Great. So we have the conditional formatting in place for the matrix table. One thing we can do is come to general, come to properties, no, not properties, effect, and turn off the background. We don't need it. The final thing we need to do to this matrix visual is actually to give it a title. So I'll quickly go to my report here. I'll simply copy the title I have here. You can actually look at the title I have here. So I'm saying performance by agent. F arrow means first response, arrow means resolution. It's just a way of trying to give the viewer what F arrow and arrow means. So I'll navigate back to the report now. I'll come to general, that's format general, turn on the title, I'll paste the title I have copied. I'll change the style to what we've been using, UI, and I think that's all. Increase the size a bit. and we're good to go. Great. So with this, we've created the first matrix table, for our agent performance. Let's quickly look at the table we have here. So this is the first matrix table. Now we have the next matrix table here. That's agent performance, the rating received by the different agents. So we'll quickly begin creating that. Let's navigate back to our report now. One thing we also need to do here is select the matrix table, come to format, grid, scroll down, come to border, just put on the top border. Yeah, that's all, just the top border. Great. So I'll quickly save this. Next, let's begin creating the second matrix table for our agent performance. I'll quickly select the matrix table. I'll bring that here. I'll increase the size a bit. The next thing I'll do, the first column we need for the matrix table is our agent name also. We also need the agent name once more. So we have the agent name. Now, we created a column before now called rating. So I'll click on the rating. Great. Now I need to go select. So our calculations, we select the total number of tickets. Total tickets. Great. So we can easily tell how many one-star rating the agent receive, 2-star rating, 3-star rating, and all. So one thing we need to do is come to filters. Not all the tickets have received rating. So we'll come to our rating here and uncheck the blank. Select all, then uncheck the blank, because not all the tickets have received rating. So select all and uncheck the blank, lock this, filter, and close it. So next thing we need to do is quickly come to format, grid. First, our layout, we'll change this from default to none. Go to grid, scroll down, options, like you know, increase the padding, let's say 5 now. We've been using 5. Font size, we need to take it to 14, like we've been using. The next thing we need to do is expand the bits. Expand what we have here. Expand, 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 and we are good. So let's quickly check. Let's quickly check and see if we're in order. Great, so we're in order. We're in order, so I'll navigate back to our report now. So what we quickly need to do is apply conditional formatting to everything we have here. Just conditional formatting to everything we have here. So to do that is I'll select the matrix table once more, come to format, general. First thing I'll do effects, I'll turn off the background. Next, I will simply go grab that color code. I can't remember. I don't know why I've not actually saved it somewhere. We need the color code for our conditional formatting. I need to grab the color code once more. Great. Navigate back to the agent performance. Now select the matrix visual. I'll come to format. I'll scroll down, cell elements. I'll scroll down. I'll turn on the background. Then come to conditional formatting. I want the lowest value to be white and I want the highest value to be the value for our color code. And I'll click on what? Okay. Great. One thing we can also do here, I don't think we need the total tickets. Okay, we also can just do that. We can also apply conditional formatting to that. I didn't do this in the report before now. Cell elements. No, we can't do that. We can't do that. We can't do that. So I simply need to remove the total. So turn off the column subtotal. You can also turn off the row subtotal. If you want to leave it, is up to you. So once you've done this, all you need to do is expand more, expand more, expand to fill the gap. Great. So this is the second matrix table. You can easily tell the weighting received by each of the agents. So my title is actually performance by agent, weighting received by agents. So you need to add title to your chart also. I'll select the chart and simply go copy the title. Chart title. I'll turn on the title, expand, and paste weighting received by agents. One thing I'll do is turn off the row subtotal. I actually don't need that. I'll format my title now, change the style, so I'll be consistent. Great. And that's all. So with this, we've created the two matrix table we needed for our agent performance. Next, we need to then go ahead and visualize the measure we created before now. That's the overall resolution, the overall average resolution. We've created that measure before now. We visualize by the different ticket topic, and finally we'll create one last measure, and that's the average number of agents that interacts with each ticket. That's the average agent interaction. I'll simply just copy this. So one last measure we need to create, I promise this is going to be the last measure, new measure, is just to know the average number of agents that interacts with the tickets. So average agents interaction. So it's just an average of the technical support agent interaction. So I'll commit this. So for the first chart, we'll quickly select the stacked bar chart. I'll bring this here. Next, I'm going to select the average SLA overall. That's the measure we're using. Next, technical support, and select the ticket topic. Great. It's pretty straightforward. We'll add conditional formatting to this. I'll come to format. First thing I'm going to do, y-axis, I'll turn off the title. X-axis, I'll turn off the values and the title. I'll come to bars. On bars, I'm simply going to say conditional formatting. I would say I want to use rules. I would simply say when the average SLA overall is equal to 100, I want the color to be our color code. Wow, I need to go grab that color code. I'm really sorry about this. Okay, great. So what I'm trying to do is I want a situation where if the value is positive, the color should be blue. If it's negative, we want a red color. So come back to format now. In our bars, scroll down, click on the conditional formatting. Now when the overall value, we're changing it, we're using rules. When the overall value is equal to 100, we want the color to be the blue color. New rule, add a new rule. If it's equal to 0, we want the color to be the red color. Red color. Click on OK. Great. One thing I'll simply do to ensure that all my colors are actually blue, I'll come to View. I'll come to Themes, and I'll scroll down and say Customize Current Themes. I'll change this blue color, the first quad blue color I have here. I'll simply change it to blue, and that's our color code, and I'll click on Apply. Great. So once that is done, I'll come to Format Now, scroll down and turn on the data labels. Great. I'll turn on the data label. So this is it. I'll simply navigate back to the report and grab what? The title for this chart. I'll grab the title. That's average resolution time, minutes by different topics. So I'll grab the title. There's actually a subtitle also. So for the title, I'll come to General. I'll change the title now. Great. I'll change the style also. Scroll down, change the style. I'll go back and grab the subtitle. I also have a subtitle. The subtitle is simply saying from when the time, creation time to resolution time. I'll turn on the subtitle. I'll change this also. Great. So with this, we've actually created the third chart. One thing I'll do is select the visual, I'll come to General, Effects, I'll turn off the background. So finally, we quickly need to create the last chart, and that's the chart for average number of agent interaction by the different topics. So I'll quickly select our stack bar chart one more time. I'll bring it down here. Next, I'll select the topic. I'll scroll up to our calculations and select the average agent interaction, that's average agent int. Great. With this, I'll simply come to Format Now. On the y-axis, I want to turn off the title. On the x-axis, I want to turn off the values and the title. Then finally, I want to turn on the data label. That's all. And finally, we just need to give our chart a title. That's the average number of agent interaction needed to resolve a ticket by different ticket topics. So I'll quickly grab the title. I'll grab the title and general title. I'll change this, and I'll change the style also. Great. So one thing we can actually do, we can just come to the bars and change the color. Let's say we want a darker color. Yeah. Great. I'll quickly save this. So with this, we are done creating all the charts we need for this report. All the charts needed for this report. We are actually done creating the charts needed for this report. So if we come to this report now, we have all the charts. We have all the charts we need. We've created all the charts for the reports. We have the ticket log. We have the content and SLA. We have the agent's performance, and that's all. Next, we just need to add finishing touches to the report. And when I mean by finishing touches, let's come to the report I have here. I'll simply just clear all this. So if you come to ticket volume, we just need to add our slicers. Then we need to add our bookmark. That's our page navigator. page navigator to move from the different pages. Then we need to add the different slicers we need to add, then also the clear all slicers and all filters button. So that's what we're going to be doing next. So the first slicer we're going to be creating is going to be the source slicer. I'll quickly just come to the slicer. That's the old slicer now. I'll pick that. I'll just drop it here and I'll navigate to technical support and I'll scroll down to where we have source and I'll select the source. Great. So one thing I'll just quickly do is come to format. I'll say slicer setting. I'll say drop down. Great. I'll reduce the size. I'll bring this here and okay. So I'll simply just come to values. I'll scroll down, come to the background. I'm sure we don't want any background on this slicer, so that's fine. I'll come to general now, effects. I'll turn off the background. Great. Next, I'll come to values. So the values are actually black. So for the slicer background, I'll change it to white. Great. So this is what I want. This is what I want. This is what I want to achieve. I think it's similar to what I have here. So I'll quickly check. Let's quickly check that. Yes, it's similar to what I have here. So you have the source up there and great. So I'll quickly navigate back to our report now. So this is what I want. One thing we need to quickly do is come to format once more and turn off the slicer header, come to general, turn on the title and simply say select source. So I'll quickly just type select source. Great. I'll change this consistency to the same style we've been using and probably reduce this to 12. Great. So once I have the first slicer, all I need to do is make a duplicate of this slicer. I'll come to home, copy, paste. I think the next slicer we'll be creating will be for priority. So I would uncheck source. I'll change that to priority. Next, I'll go to title, general, and change it to select priority. Great. Let's quickly confirm how many slicers we have here. So we have priority, status, topic, week number. So status and topic. So go back. I'll simply just paste another copy. That will be for status. So this will be select status. I'll uncheck this, replace it with status. Next, I'll come to settings, title. I'll change this to select status. Great. Okay. I'll make one more copy. What else do we want to select? We already have status. So topic, then week number and day. So we need to select topic, week number and day also. Next, I will uncheck this, select topic, go to title once more, change this to select topic. So we have one for week number, another one, make one more copy, week number. I'll uncheck this, replace it with week number. So I'll go to my calendar table now to grab the week number. This is week number here. Let's confirm. Great. So this is select week number. Select week number. And finally, we need one more copy to select the day. Select day. So this would be select the day. Select day. Great. So we need to change this from source now to day. We need to pick the day. Great. So one thing I'll quickly do, I'll bring this here a bit. I'll resize it and I'll come to properties now. Come to general. This should be, what if we have 75 and the width is 190? So 75, 190, I'll select this, hold down my control, this, 75 and 190. Great, so they are all same size. I'll quickly just bring them closer. Great. Then one thing I'll also do is select the first one, hold down my control, select the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, come to format, align and distribute horizontally. I'll hold down my control. No, I don't need to hold down control now. I'll just select and shift this a bit. Great. Great. So I'll quickly come here now. I'll come to insert. I'll say I want to insert a shape, just a rectangle. I'll bring that here, reduce the size. So before doing this, I'll select all the slicers. I'll select all the slicers. I'll come to format. I'll say bring to front. Now I can select the rectangle, increase it over the slicers. Great. So you have that feel I had on the other side. So one thing I'll also do is create another rectangle, come to insert another rectangle and just reduce the size. Reduce the size. I'll reduce the size and I'll bring that here. Great. So we have our slicers already. We also need a text box to bring our technical support. So this will be technical support. Okay, I'll just highlight this, increase the size to 28, make it bold. I'll come to format now. Okay, so I'll come to effects. I'll turn off the background. So the technical support should be here. Just place it here. I think it's okay here. So we have the technical support and we have all our slicers. Next, we need to create our page navigator. So to do that, I'll simply come to insert. I'll come to buttons and I'll say I want to insert a page navigator. So this is my page navigator. I'll simply place it here. So here's a couple of things I'll do now. I'll come to style. I'll turn off the text. So I don't have any text for this page navigator. I'll simply reduce the size. Great. Next thing I'm going to do is come to insert once more. I'll say page navigator, and insert the page navigator again. This time around, I'm going to place this directly on top of the one I already have here. So I'm just going to reduce the size a bit. I'm going to reduce this, bring it closer. I'll place the second one directly on top of the first one I had earlier. So make sure you click and bring it down a bit directly on top, just the way you have it here. So next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to select the one on top, and I'm simply going to come to Style. On default, note on default, I'm going to come down and say no fill, no fill. On default, I'm saying no fill. So this is what you have right now. So the next thing I want to also do, I don't think we need the border. Let's quickly check. So we don't need the border also. So I'll select the top one also. I'll come to Style. On default also, we don't need the border. So what we just need is the text we need. So that's on default. Next, on selected. On selected, I'll change it to unselected. Unselected, we still don't need anything. The only thing we need is we need to increase the text size for unselected, so we know that ticket volume is actually what is selected now. So we'll make it 14. Great. Great. So this is what you have. You directly know that ticket volume is actually what is selected at the moment. So when you click on ticket log, you have the dark spots move to ticket log just the way you have on the other side. So let's navigate back to the old report now. You can see what I'm talking about. So you have ticket volume, ticket log. And okay, so one thing we can actually do is comes to our report now. So we select this and say go to style. When it's on default, we want the text to be, let's say, gray. Yes. So I'll simply make it a little bit lighter. Nope, I don't like this. I'll take the second one. This is also not good, so I'll settle for the first one. Increase the size a bit to 12 so you can see it clearly. Great. Next, when is selected, we want the text to be black, so it tallies with what is actually selected. Great. So one thing we can also do is select this and say that's the done one now. Come to style and say on default, we don't actually want the border. We don't want the border. So you turn off the border for this. Turn off the border. Even on selected, when it's selected, we still don't want the border. So the border is automatically turned off. So that's fine. So you have this neat. So when you click on ticket log, it moves. So you have this indicator down here that moves along with what is actually selected. So that's how you create the page navigator. I think that is all. So what do we need to create? One more thing. So for the this is just an icon I used for my clear all slicer. So you can actually go online and grab any icon you want. You put it here. You put the icon here that would represent your clear all slicer. So what I'm going to do here now, I'm simply going to select this box. I'll say style. I'll put on the text. I'll simply write clear all. I'll just say clear all. So you easily know that that is to clear all selection. So I'll say clear all selection. I'll simply say clear all selection. And I'll make the text black. So I'll just say clear all selection. I'll also make the border I want it to be black also, black or gray. Great, so that's clear all selection. You can actually replace this with your icon if you choose to. Then finally, we need to do just one more thing. This is actually optional. This is optional. If you come to the ticket analysis, so I I did promise we created the last measure already, so I had this last measure just to display today's date. So I just copy that. It's just a measure to display today's date. So what I wrote there is actually welcome agent. Today is then the date. So we can actually go back to our report now and simply say calculations, new measure. I'll simply paste that measure. That's today's date. I'll paste that measure. I'll commit the measure. Finally, I'll just go get a text box. I'll get a text box and simply say welcome agent today's. I'll simply say welcome agents today's. That's all. I'll just highlight this, increase the size a bit to say 18. Let's make it 24. I don't need to make it bold. I'll come to effects. I'll turn off the background also. Then I'm going to increase the size a bit. I'll just drop this here. Next, I'm going to get a card visual and place the measure I just created. That's today's date. Great. I actually just want the date. I don't want the time. So what do we need to do? I'll come to, while the measure is selected, I'll come to format. Okay. First, I'll come to format, general, I'll turn off effects, I'll turn off the background. I'll turn off the background. And what else do we need to do? We also need to remove the time. Ideally, I just want to show the date. I don't want the time. So what do I need to do? Any ideas from anybody? So to do that, I would simply just click on the card visual. I'll go back to the measure. I'll just go back to the measure. I'll scroll down. This is the measure. I'll select the measure and come to format and change this to, I want just day, month, and year. I think that should take care of it. Yes, with that, the card should be formatted to just the day, absent, the month. So I'll bring that here. I'll just bring it close. One thing I think I want to do is come to format once more, call add value, change the style, and also reduce the size to say 20. Okay, so let's make it 25 and we're good. So with this, we're actually done with the entire report. So one thing we can actually do now, because we need everything we have up here to appear on the remaining pages, I'll quickly just select everything here. So this is the point where you have to make sure everything is selected. So I'll make sure everything is selected. Great. So everything is selected up here. Once I have everything selected, I'm simply going to say copy. I'll navigate to the ticket log and I'll just paste. It will ask if I want to synchronize the slicers. Yes, I want to do that. I'll say synchronize. Great. So we have it here. Next, I'm going to navigate to content and SLA page. I'll navigate to content and SLA. I'll simply paste it also. I'll get the same prompt and I'll say sync. And finally, agent and performance, I'll get the same prompt, and I also want to sync. So if you look carefully, you can see how our page navigation works. Currently, we're on agent performance, and you can actually see agent performance is highlighted. So I'll come back to ticket volume, and to round this section up, we only need to do one more thing. So this is the state of our report. When nothing is selected, there's no slicer selected, there's no chart selected. So we need to save this state. One thing we can do now is come to view, come to bookmark, and say add bookmark. This bookmark, you actually rename it now to clear one. Great, this is clear one. Now select this clear all selection you have here. Come to action, turn it on, expand. You want to tie this to a bookmark, and the bookmark should be clear one. Great. So if you have this chart selected, for example, or you have a slicer selected, all you need to do to go back, you can just click on your clear button now, and everything returns back to the original state. Even if you have a slicer selected up here, if you select a slicer up here, you can also just come to click on clear or selection to make sure you return to the original state. So we're going to do that for page 2. This is the ticket log. So this is the ticket log. This is the state we also want to save. I'll just click on add bookmark. This is the state we want to save. I'll say clear 2, clear 2. Now once I say clear 2, I'll make sure I select this clear all selection for page 2. I'll turn on the action once more. I'll come to action. I want to tie this to a bookmark. Now it's clear 2. We have to do same for content and SLA. Once we're here, we want to save this state, so I'll add this. I'll say this is clear 3, clear 3. I'll select the clear all selection. I'll turn on the action once more, navigate and say bookmark. Now the bookmark should be clear 3. And finally, I'll do that for agent performance. Nothing is selected as of now. I'll just add a bookmark and say this is clear 4. This is clear 4. I'll select the clear all selection, turn on the action, extend this to a bookmark, and I want to tie it to clear 4. So select this chart now. Yes, I'll see my changes. I can simply just click on declare all selection to return back to the original state. So I'll navigate back to my first page. Let's use the page navigator we have here to the first page. So this is the first page of our reports. So with this, we're actually done with the technical support analysis. So if you enjoyed the video, please do well to leave a like, leave any comment on the video. If there's anything you want me to cover, if there's anything you also want me to touch in the near future. So one thing you can also do before we go, remember that you can always edit interaction within your report. So say you don't want the topic or the week number, for example, to filter this chart. You can select the week number, come to format, come to edit interaction, and say you don't want any interaction between this slicer and the week number. So you can always do that. Uncheck edit interaction. You can always do that. So with this, we've come to the end of this report. I hope you guys enjoyed the report. Leave a like, leave a comment. And if you've not subscribed to the channel, please do well to subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. It's nice having you guys. Take care.